Jesus was about to assume the most humble posture and position and garb that he could in his culture. Within the hierarchy of cultures, for somebody to have a towel around their waist was to say that, like, I am of the lowest caste in our society hierarchically. Jesus put a towel around his waist. I mean, for us in our culture, if somebody has a towel around their waist, it's probably because they're heading out to the hot tub. In Jesus' culture, for somebody to have a towel around their waist is to say, I am assuming the lowest, most humble posture I possibly can. By all accounts, really, he was a rabbi who didn't assume the trappings and privileges of the rabbis. In fact, he was quite harsh with those rabbis who were pharisaical, who were hypocritical in nature. But he puts a towel around his waist instead. Instead of assuming the highest authority of this world and all the trappings thereof and the ceremonial robes, he puts a towel around his waist in his final hours with his disciples. So don't let the cultural significance of that symbolism be lost on you as we continue in the Gospel of John, chapter 13. Now, when it was time for supper, the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, Simon Iscariot's son, to betray him. Jesus knew that the Father had given everything into his hands, that he had come from God, and that he was going back to God. So he got up from supper, laid aside his outer clothing, took a towel, and tied it around himself. Next, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet and dry them with the towel tied around him. For Jesus to wear this towel around his waist was to assume a position of utmost humility, and don't miss this, even washing Judas's feet, knowing that the devil had prompted Judas. Knowing that the devil had already prompted Judas to betray him, Jesus washed his betrayer's feet. Christian, don't slam your enemies on the internet. Wash their feet. If you've been party to that mob mentality, that cancel culture where somebody makes a mistake or made a mistake 15 years ago and you crowd around and you just throw stones at your fellow sinner like crazy, would you remember that Jesus washed Judas's feet knowing he'd been prompted by the devil to betray him? And spoiler, he's gonna say, this is an example that you would do for others what I have done for you. We're gonna be held to this standard when you are throwing stones at someone who's being publicly shamed and publicly humiliated. I've been there. I know what it's like to have lies written about you on the internet, by Christians, by the way. You are not honoring God. You're not acting like Jesus. Instead, you have been told to do what Jesus did, and that is wash enemies' feet. If Jesus washed Judas's feet, you've got to forgive the people that you're holding grudges against. You've got to call right now. Pull out your phone, okay? Pull over if you're driving. Make the call. Forgive, 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 because you've been forgiven, forgiven, forgiven. Jesus washed Judas's feet knowing he'd been prompted by the devil. So you don't have a case, my friend, to justify the grudge you're holding against somebody else. Now, with that kind of forgiveness, go light up the darkness today.